We now have what promises to be a riveting presentation from the lead researcher at Tortoise Media and the co-author of the Global AI Index. And after that, please stay closely tuned for the much-awaited Customer Impact Awards at approximately 11:45 British Standard Time. I now want to introduce the brilliant Serena Cesareo. Serena is lead researcher at Tortoise Media and co-author of the Global AI Index, which, by the way, Serena, I spent quite a lot of time looking at the last couple of days. Fascinating and much needed. The first global country ranking on AI capacity that is being used by governments, academics around the world to inform their AI strategies. Before joining Tortoise, Serena led large-scale research projects in both media and think tank environments, including at the Economist Group, public policy issues such as AI, migration, energy, and sustainable development. Serena, the stage is yours.
Hi, Shivi. Thank you for this wonderful introduction. It's really, really great to be here. So for those of you who haven't heard of the Global AI Index before, this is a project that launched in 2019 for the first time. Oh, I see slides on, great. And has been updated 4 times since then. And it's essentially a big data gathering and data analysis exercise on the state of AI development around the world. It ultimately results in a ranking of over 60 countries based on AI capacity. And it was really born out of the need to understand what's going on in AI, which countries are leading the AI race, which countries are lagging behind, who's doing what, and sort of what the global picture looks like. And as a journalistic company at Tortoise Media, we're interested in making sense of topics that we find complex and also making this information available to the public. And like Shivi was saying earlier, it's been really wonderful to see, since we started working on this, the interest that we get from AI government agencies of some of the countries that we assess, and some of them we're in close contact with, and we know that they use our index as one of the metrics to inform their AI strategy and AI plans. And before I go into the main findings, I just wanted to show a little bit more about how the index work. So we gather data across 111 different indicators that are sort of spread out across 3 main pillars and 7 sub-pillars. So the pillars you see here are innovation, implementation, and investment. And within innovation, we look at research and development, for example, and this includes the number of AI researchers in a country and how sort of the AI patent ecosystem works, and academia. Within implementation, we look at talent, operating environment, and infrastructure. Talent is obviously related to the level of development of the AI workforce. Operating environment is anything from the sort of level of public opinion around AI, and infrastructure is both advanced and more basic access to infrastructure. Investment looks at both governance, so government strategy and government spending, and the commercial ecosystem of AI in the country. Some of the main findings that I thought could be useful to share from the latest index update that we did last year. As you can see here, I've put here the top 10 countries in the index. Like I said, we have over 60, but these are the top 10. And the US is at the top of the index, and it leads in all 3 main pillars. So it's especially ahead when it comes to commercial investment. Just as a sort of piece of information, US companies taking over half of all private investment in AI, and that share has remained relatively stable over the past 3 years, while China's has declined slightly. And China, as you can see here, comes second and is really the only country that gets close to challenging the US in a few indicators and pillars. But I think the key thing to note here is that the US between the US and China and everyone else, there is a pretty big gap. So the US and China are really the key leaders, and everyone else comes after. But it's also interesting to note that Singapore ranks number 3, and it's the key reason here, I think, that is important to note is that Singapore performs really well on indicators that we call per capita indicators. So one thing that we really want to do with this index is trying to look at not just the sort of raw number, but looking at how countries perform on indicators that are, for example, relative to the size of their economy and the size of their population. And Singapore comes up as a really strong AI hub and kind of dynamic despite being a small country. Kind of expanding on this point, some smaller countries outperform on AI, and I hope you can see in the screen here that obviously Singapore is one of the countries that ranks best when it comes to intensity. So what I was saying earlier, when looking at indicators that are relative to the country population and the country's economy size. But there's another cluster of countries that include Israel, for example, Switzerland, Finland, and some other ones. And in terms of intensity, these are the ones that tend to perform best. While when it comes to scale, so just looking at the sheer, for example, number of AI data scientists, the US and China are very clear leaders. However, the countries that perform best on AI, although there are small kind of dynamic AI hubs, are still mainly high-income countries. And I hope you can see in this graph, the orange countries are the high-income ones, here measured in terms of GDP per capita. And if you look at how they perform on our index, so in terms of their AI index score, it's the high-income countries that tend to perform best. While if you look at the sort of bottom left corner of the charts, you have lower middle-income countries that have a lower score on the index, and so tend to perform worse. And so I think another point to note here is that the US and China especially control critical infrastructure for AI and sort of the key technological advancements when it comes to AI by investing significantly more than everyone else. And as the developments of even the more cutting edge AI technologies is shifting, we see from academia to industry, we expect the dominance of the US to be even more prominent in the future. And I think the question here, and hearing from our previous brilliant panelists, and the question that I'm sure will be discussed even more widely today is then, to what extent are the benefits and opportunities of AI concentrated in the hands of those who are already way ahead rather than shared for sustainable development among all countries? This is a question that we don't have an answer to, but that I hope will be the basis of a further discussion. And before I close, I just want to give a hint to what we're looking at for the upcoming update of the index. This question that I was just addressing is one of the questions that we're thinking about. For example, we are planning on expanding the list of countries that we look at, including some countries from sub-Saharan Africa, and we really want to recognize their efforts, especially when it comes to developing an AI strategy and having a first plan to develop AI within the country, which we use as a criteria for a country to be included in the index, for example. Something else we want to do is we want to take a closer look at AI ethics and how governments are incorporating ethics within their AI strategy plans. We're also planning on taking a closer look at AI adoption. So not, for example, just looking at the level of AI talent development around the world, but getting a sense of, for example, the number of AI scientists in a country based on the various industries and various sectors that they end up in. We hope that this type of project and this type of data analysis exercise can sort of be the basis for having a clear understanding of what the AI space looks like. And I think one other thing I wanted to point out is that, like Shivi mentioned earlier, we get a lot of interest from researchers. Every day we get emails and questions from researchers and academics around the world that want to use our index to expand their research or as the basis for their PhD research and so on. And we find that really interesting. For us, it's interesting to engage with them and hear their thoughts. So I just want to urge everyone who's listening in today to reach out if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts on things that we're missing, because really what we want to do is provide the best sort of public service that we can, helping whether it's governments, whether it's researchers, do their AI plans and push AI forward in the most informed way possible. So I think I'll end there and stay tuned for the AI Index 2024 in September this year.
Serena, that's wonderful. I also love your open invitation to researchers and governments worldwide, a really powerful call for action, because there'll be a lot of people that do want to reach out, myself included, to really understand, how they but also the value that you're bringing. I was really intrigued to hear what you said about the index ranking a whopping 60 countries. That's no mean feat. So really well done. And expanding the list to include sub-Saharan Africa as well, even better. All of this is helping us understand those countries that are leading the AI race and those lagging behind, and actually what we can do about it. Making that information available to the public is just democratizing access to that information, and the work you're doing in gathering social, environmental, ethical indicators to show what it means to be a responsible business is absolutely vital. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shivi.
So